Hello, everybody, and welcome to Atheist Sunday School, your one-stop shop for everything Atheist Sunday and school, and boy, do we have a show for you today. Today, we are covering Matthew chapters 18 through 20
with Landon Noll.
Woo! Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on your times and latitude, from your astronomer in your favorite universe. And how are you folks doing today?
See, I don't know if I'd call this my favorite universe. Maybe like top 3.
My favorite universe is the theoretical universe where everything's exactly the same, except I have like billions of dollars and can do whatever I want without caring about ever running out of money.
That sounds like a better one.
This is my favorite universe, so stick with that.
Landon got those things that you said, I guess. Thanks.
Yeah. he has all those. Doesn't have to worry about it in the least.
Yep.
But today's a fine day. There's nice light coming in. The Canadian Cascades are nice and bright and snowy. Just out the window, and I've got a T-shirt. Look at
that.
Look at
that beautiful Beheld shirt.
Woo.
There it is. That's the one that we haven't been able to like post in the chat for some reason.
But it is on
nice
Teespring.
shirt.
Yeah, it is definitely on Teespring.
Yeah, you can check it out. You should buy
It's
it.
still not in the merchandise. Do you know how to fix this?
I looked on Teespring and it's definitely there, but I have no idea why it's like. I'll probably have to go and check the merch settings. Maybe there's like a limit to those.
21 seems pretty arbitrary.
It does seem pretty arbitrary.
Well, because they can drink now, so.
Yes, that's how that works.
Mm-hmm.
So we're covering New Testament stuff today. More of it.
Yep, we are covering New Testament stuff. I have the King James Version of the Bible.
I have the English Standard Version of the Bible.
I have the New American Standard Bible Reference Edition, J. Holman Company, a division of J. Lipcott Company, and probably Copyright God somewhere, maybe.
Oh, yeah,
Yes.
definitely, 100%.
We also have Eerdman's commentary on the Bible.
We have the Hermenia translation and commentary by Ulrich Luz. This is volume 2.
We have the Jewish Annotated New Testament.
We do. We also have a Greek New Testament and a textual guide to the Greek New Testament. The guide is from Roger Olmanson, and the Greek New Testament that we have is from quite a few people. Edited, so Curtin Barber Allen. Oh my God, this name is ridiculous. It's Greek though. Johannes Karavitopoulos, Carlos
you.
Martini, and Bruce Metzger.
His last name
Rajano
is
Gray.
Martini.
Grave.
Yes, his last-
Rajano, looking forward to learning about the ways of the Lord as I drink 19 Crimes Cabernet Sauvignon on this Sunday. Well,
By the way, 19 Crimes is actually a really good cab. What year, though? Maybe you could tip and let us know which year it is. Some years are better than others. It's good, but some years are actually great.
aren't they the ones that have Snoop Dogg on them?
What?
No, I don't think so.
Which is the one that has Snoop Dogg on the labels?
I have no idea.
Oh,
I didn't even know that there was a what is that, a wine with Snoop Dogg? I
Yeah.
didn't even know that
I sort
was a
of
thing.
knew that maybe.
There's the one with Chris Jericho. That one's pretty great.
Oh, yeah. Great.
I have not tried the 2020, so I'd have to go on based on reviews. But anyway,
And I think
We also have the New Interpreter's Bible, or New Interpreter's Version, NIV.
NIV. Yes.
Yeah,
New
Study
International.
Bible. And the New King James.
Yeah, obviously the less superior King James.
Yeah, we
Right?
also have the text of the New Testament by Bruce Metzger and the historical Jesus in context.
Yes, we do. And that one's by Amy Jill Levine and some other people, I think. Dale Allison and John Dominic Crossan. There we go. Yeah,
Yep.
so we got a lot of stuff here on this table.
Yeah, more than enough, really.
Definitely think so. Yeah, it's definitely good for our purposes. So this the section that we're going to be starting with today is a huge discourse, essentially, to the community, and there's not that much interesting stuff to say about it generally. Although there are a few textual things that I will note as we go on. But this is I think this is Landon's first time with us for the New Testament as well.
That is true. And I'll point out that somewhere in the past in one of my devotionals, I underlined the first 4 verses of chapter 18 because I thought they were important.
Oh, well, I guess we'll see how important they are. We'll be the judge of that.
It's interesting they didn't underline verse 5, but oh well, whatever, or verse 6. But
we'll see what those verses say, and then we'll determine how good of a Christian you really were, Landon.
Yeah. So where last we left Jesus, he and his followers had gone to Capernaum, and I guess we're picking up there.
I guess we are, yeah.
Yep. At chapter 18. At the same time came the disciples unto Jesus, saying, "Who is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven?"
And by the way, if I point out there that translation also talks about time being same hour. So
it is. It's in that same hour. The disciples came to Jesus saying.
And the other one is a dispute about the word greatest there. Who is greater? Not because there's a thing you might say. Well, shouldn't God be the greatest in the kingdom of heaven?
You would think.
And I think the item more is a matter that they were perhaps the disciples were trying to vie for who is the greater in the kingdom of heaven. I think that's what it is because obviously. The God, you would say would be they're implying God, but obviously it's not. So
yeah, who is the it would be who's the greater one in the kingdom of heaven?
Us. Yes. I think the context might be that sometime they were having a debate on who amongst them will be the greater in the kingdom of heaven or is greater in the kingdom of heaven, and so yeah.
All right.
That's what happens.
Yeah. And Jesus called a little child unto him, and set him in the midst of them, and said, Verily I say unto you, except ye be converted and become as little children, ye shall not enter into the kingdom of heaven. Whosoever therefore shall humble himself as this little child, the same is greatest in the kingdom of heaven. And whoso shall receive one such little child in my name receiveth me.
So,
isn't that nice?
So this is the humbleness is meant to contrast the greatness, which is a position of honor, and in fact the word megas, which is the root form here, it could be great, it can be large, but in this sense it does seem to denote honor, and that's why they contrast it with humbleness, like the meek will inherit the earth, all that stuff.
Sure, and probably that again the context was that the disciples or the followers were debating amongst themselves who would have or will have the greater honor in the kingdom of heaven, and Jesus comes and says, consider this little child thing.
Yeah,
but of course, verse 6 on the other hand is a warning to you folks.
Yeah. Now, the point of the child, the NIV says that children are trusting and unpretentious.
What?
No, well,
that's not my experience of children.
Oh,
No,
jeez.
no,
I
no.
was just thinking the complete opposite.
they're the actual worst.
But the Jewish annotated version says children represent those without power who are dependent on others.
Yeah, so
Okay, that makes at least some sense.
It makes way more sense.
Considering
yeah,
the other statement.
it's especially with if they're translating as humbleness there, that would make way more sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, so here's something from
That
Luz.
first statement, though, man.
Yeah, right. just blatantly false.
Yeah. Have you never been or interacted with a child?
This guy's like, in theory, I have. Well,
Yeah, in
thanks."
theory. To become like children is a paradox, since it is impossible for those who are no longer children to become children again. So what does it mean that one is to do something that is impossible, that contradicts what is possible by nature? So I think the obvious conclusion that we've already discussed is that's why they become like children, in the sense of humbleness and meekness, I suppose.
Needing to be led, even.
Led, taught, maybe, yeah.
Lessons to be learned, things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But whoso shall offend one of these little ones which believe in me, it were better for him that a milestone were hanged about his neck, and that he were drowned in the depth of the sea.
Oh, damn.
Yeah.
Ooh, so that'd be a lesson. If you folks doing these Sunday school things cause a little one to stumble, you might want to get a life preserver or take extra swimming lessons.
Yeah.
It'd be pretty hard anyways with the millstone wrapped around your neck.
But if you get enough floaty stuff.
That's true.
Or if you get really good at
you could-
untying knots.
Man, you guys, millstones have to be big. That's the whole point of and heavy because they crush stuff. It's not. It's an example to say you can't. I don't know. They didn't have floaty things back then, really. Not that many.
Yeah.
Leather buoys. I don't know.
Okay. Woe unto the world because of offenses, for it must needs be that offenses come. But woe to that man by whom the offense cometh.
So interesting. You say offenses. Well, I talked about stumbling blocks. Stumbling blocks come. So is it offense, or is it, given the context? I don't think it's a matter of being rude. I think it's a matter of creating. There probably looks like it's creating things that cause little ones to stumble. Right?
Yeah, so for Matthew, cause to fall is connected with rejecting Jesus and apostasy. That he is thinking here also of leading people into apostasy is obvious, since the little ones are described as those who believe in me. Of course, in Matthew, apostasy is not simply a matter of embracing false doctrine, since it expresses itself in concrete deeds that do not correspond to the will of God. Thus, the readers are to think of the act of seducing people to sin that has such catastrophic consequences for the seducer that it would be better for that person to be drowned.
Yikes! But okay.
Now, of course, this is not saying that people should be drowned. I know there were religious circles that took people who were accused of courting with the devil, right, and therefore causing people to stumble, right, and drowning them in a lake or a pond. They basically had a dunking chair with a millstone. They would tie the person to the chair and dunk it in there. And one of the rationales was that was this verse saying, well, this is an evil person causing other people to stumble, right?
Yeah, although there's, I think it sounds like they're saying that it would be better to be drowned than to be led astray.
Of course,
Yeah.
they weren't
That is-
witches. They were just drowned.
Yes, and that was a rationalization for that. In fact, the account I remember reading was of somebody who was accused of not only convorting with the spirits, but in trying to teach others to do the same thing. And this person was put in a chair. They had a millstone attached to the chair. So it was that was a tied thing. And this verse was read as they were then dunked into the thing and drowned.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That
Fun things that zealots do in the name of this book.
Judeo-Christian values.
Yes.
Yep. Wherefore,
I'm just glad that the vast majority. I sure hope the vast majority of Christians don't do that. I don't think they do. I'd be surprised to learn if they did.
It's a secret.
it depends on who we consider the real Christians.
Oh, right,
Lawrence.
right. Of course, of course, of course.
And I don't know, Matthew, whether I don't recall whether that was related to the Inquisition. The Inquisition actually was an inquisitor was in certain areas in Europe. It might have been, but I don't know that particular case.
Wherefore, if thy hand or thy foot offend thee, cut them off and cast them from thee. It's better for thee to enter into life halt or maimed, rather than having 2 hands or 2 feet to be cast into everlasting fire. And if thine eye offend thee, pluck it out and cast it from thee. It is better for thee to enter into life with 1 eye, rather than having 2 eyes to be cast into hellfire.
Yeah, so obviously, people aren't just like, doing this whenever they sin, right? So following a source in Mark, Matthew adds to the warning against seducers a direct warning to the members of the church who are in a position to be seduced. While he repeats the sayings about severing one's hand and eye that he has already used, he applies them differently. In the context of the second...
Thanks again, Ray.
Rajano Gray, thank you.
Thank you, Rajano
Thank you.
Gray. Which could be a mistranslation. The word could be translated as poisoner of wells.
Are we talking... it depends. What language are we talking about here? Are we talking about Hebrew or Greek? Or
Are we talking about Latin?
Yeah, that too. It depends on what language we're talking about.
Because the Malleus Maleficorum is Latin.
Oh, that's right, because we were talking about
Witchcraft
that before, yeah.
And wizardry within the religious context had a wide variety of meanings that differed from the practitioners, let's say, of things like herbal magic and so forth. So when someone was accused oftentimes when someone was accused of doing things that were against the religious order, part of that was an assertion by the priests over the dominance of the spirit world. They didn't want somebody else saying, if you have this crystal and you drink these herbs, things will happen, right? So there was a sort of a pushback against sort of spiritual, like we would call sort of woo type things, and someone who was practicing that as a business openly, or even teaching them was a target for retributions. Now, in the case of this self-maiming, it also was used by the Puritans to rationalize flagellating themselves, beating themselves, and so forth. So they would, in private, if they felt that they sinned, their body had caused them to sin, they would go and maim themselves in various ways. I don't think usually they would go to the point of cutting off a limb.
Right.
But the Puritans particularly had some really wacky, strange things, and these verses were used by the Puritans to abuse themselves. They were really big into S&M, spiritual S&M.
Which is not listen, if you do something wrong, don't automatically resort to self-flagellation. That's not a healthy way to deal with that.
No, it's not.
But pain is the only atonement, Lawrence. Just kidding.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So yes, like Opus Dei there are Opus Dei certainly attracts people who would be willing to beat their body if they felt their body is causing them to stumble. This notion of stuff, and that can be something as simple as someone has a so-called wet dream and then abuses themselves for doing sinful stuff because they pick up verses in the Old Testament that say that's naughty. So
yeah. So on these verses, it's interesting that you bring up wet dreams. So So we had like one that was already used in chapter 5 in connection in connection with the second antithesis. He applies them differently in the context of the second antithesis. Matthew 5:29 through 30 is a warning against sexual seduction. Here, the thought is more likely of a challenge to the little ones to avoid all contact with people who want to destroy their faith. The application in Matthew 5:29 through 30 is similar to rabbinic parallels that relate hands and eyes to sexual sins. Our text, on the other hand, is closer to Hellenistic parallels that compare the radical separation from bad friends or from an evil in general to the work of a physician who may have to amputate parts of the body.
All right.
Obviously, don't go cutting off your body parts either.
Try not to.
No. Actually, I would even recommend that you do not, but
Yeah, do not.
medically necessary.
Right.
But that's just my opinion.
Take heed that ye despise not one of these little ones, for I say unto you that in heaven their angels do always behold
Behold!
Behold.
the face of my Father which is in heaven. This is interesting. Their angels.
Question about that verse 11 is it's in brackets, and it says in my thing most ancient manuscripts omit this verse.
Yes, in fact, I have a quite a bit on that. Do you guys want to hear
well,
about it?
I'm not on verse
Yes.
11 yet.
I thought you.
Yeah, it's the next one.
I just read verse 10.
Yeah.
But verse 10 is interesting because it specifies their angels.
Yeah.
And is that in the Greek too?
I will check it.
It
So
could-
verse 10?
Yes. The NIV notes guardian angels, not exclusively for children, but for God's people in general, and references Psalm 34:7, which...
It does look like it's their angels, yeah. Yeah, so it's hoi ageloi auton. So yeah. So they're angels in heaven. Yeah.
So Psalm 34:7 says, "The angel of the Lord encamps around those who fear him, and he delivers them." But that doesn't sound like individual guardian angels assigned to.
Yeah. So let's so do you have quite a bit on this here. So the text presupposes an understanding of guardian angels that, when compared with contemporary Judaism, demonstrates unique features. The idea that people have a guardian angel that accompanies them throughout life is part of a widespread conceptual world and is related to such ideas as the ancient Persian belief in Fravshis, the Roman idea of genius, I guess is what it looks like here, and the Greek idea of the daimon that accompanies people.
Yes.
In the biblical Jewish cultural world, the concept of guardian angels that are not allied with individuals or of guardian angels of special distinguished persons is relatively old. The idea that each individual has a personal guardian angel is widespread for the first time in rabbinic Judaism, but these guardian angels live on earth and do not belong to the highest class of angels, which, according to the widely held view, are the only ones who see God's face. The most likely bridge to the view found in our text that individuals have personal angels in heaven that would be so it would be the idea that the individual guardian angels from time to time ascend to heaven in order to report to God on their charges or to intercede for them, or the idea that the guardian angels will be present at the last judgment. The view in our text is thus by no means common in Judaism. We should not conclude, however, that it offers an intentional contrast to Jewish thought.
Well, I would say that that's an inaccurate reading of the text that you've just read off, because it says that in heaven their angels do always behold the face of my Father which is in heaven. This isn't like they will eventually or they sometimes ascend to do so. This is an always statement.
Yeah, and my translation has the word continually, right? That's a pretty strong set. But does that mean that God's too busy and has to subcontract out all of this monitoring? I'm
Apparently,
just asking.
you know,
Of course.
the entire hierarchy of angels, it makes little sense
So-
because God should just have the ability to do whatever they do without them.
So the translation that's used here is, "For I say to you, their angels, always see in heaven my Father's face
So
in
ho-
heaven."
How could that commentary?
Okay. So I think, so in heaven is used twice in the verse. So, their angels always see in heaven my Father's face in heaven. Maybe they're saying like when they're in heaven, they always see His face.
Well,
I don't know.
the KJV says that in heaven their angels do always behold the face of my Father which is in heaven.
Oh, okay.
So
So it doesn't.
so is
When it comes to,
there a possessive in the Greek?
yes, there are a few actually. So let's see. So after the angels, their angels in heaven, diapantos bapusian, so by which all, or through, let's see, prosopon, not quite sure what that means. Okay, so all of these are referring back to the same thing. All of the possessives here would be referring back to the same thing, except for mu, which just means my Father in that context. So because he's using articles here.
Wait, so the translation there would be that in heaven their angels in heaven do always behold the face of my Father, or something like that?
Yeah.
Well, that makes little sense.
Well, that is essentially what it's saying. And also, pantos can mean all, each, every. It has a variety of meanings, but it always is essentially wholeness, like the entirety. So when it comes to, as we've noted, seeing the face of God, that's a big thing, right? Not many people get to do that. Moses did that time, and
Not many angels get to do that.
yeah, as we have just
In
learned.
fact, if you take 3rd Enoch, for example, not many angels even get to see the faces of other angels. They're always bowing. They're literally prostrating themselves on the floor.
They're always bowing, and they're made of light, so like a very, very bright light and fire, and they're pretty intense in 3rd Enoch.
Yeah. Well, why don't I continue on here into this verse 11?
Verse 11, which I thought you'd read, but I apologize.
Right. Now, verse 11 is the one where there's some contention.
Yeah.
So I'll read this off. For the Son of Man is come to save that which was lost. That's verse 11.
Yep. So the words "for the Son of Man" came to seek and to save the lost are absent from the earliest manuscripts, representing several textual types: Alexandrian, Egyptian, and Antiochian, and are taken from Luke 19:10. These words were apparently added in order to provide a connection between verse 10 and verses 12 through 14.
How think ye, if a man have 100 sheep, and one of them be gone astray, doth he not leave the 99 and goeth into the mountains and seeketh that which is gone astray? And if so,
Well, actually not. Usually, if you have that many sheep, you might have more than one person assisting, and they will call an assistant or have the assistant come and watch the 99, because maybe the one went astray because a wolf picked it off. And if they go and chase after that wolf, the other wolf pack goes and grabs the other 99. So, in fact, having someone who raised sheep, although it didn't have 100, this is not what you do. But I'm just pointing out from a practical point of view.
It's interesting here that there's also a good history of interpretation for these verses. Yeah, so the interpretation of our parable has had a rich history, especially in the ancient church.
Wait. Let me finish the parable because it's a couple verses longer.
Fair enough.
And if so be that he find it, verily I say unto you, he rejoiceth more of that sheep than of the 99 which went not astray. Even so, it is not the will of your Father which is in heaven that one of these little ones should perish.
So, like, even if they all go astray because one sheep is like, because I don't know, that sheep also goes astray, and they all just follow that one. Even then, all that God loves them and whatnot.
Yeah.
So.
But this verse talk about gone astray. It's not a matter of you got a flock and one sheep takes off running in the direction, and you go and grab it. It's the you actually leave the ones. Go up in the mountains. So it's talking about basically wandered off, or in fact, it's been taken, and that's actually not how I would say. You may, even if you have an animal like a dog, you'll try to use the animal to try to keep the main flock there while you go and get the ones that peel off. And that's the thing that sheep often might do, is to if they're frightened, is some will take an initiative to bolt out of the flock and go astray.
Yeah, of course.
Not how sheep herding is done.
The usefulness in using going astray would be tying it back to people who go astray.
Yes.
So there are apparently a lot of historical interpretations for this. First, there was Christian Gnosticism, for which our text was a key text. The church's allegorical interpretation, which later came to dominate, both appropriated and rejected the Gnostic interpretation. That's classic. Both appropriate and reject. The Paranetic interpretation, for which Matthew was the first representative, in general played a secondary role in the church's interpretation. So the Gnostic interpretation, because I know you're all here for the Gnostic interpretation.
Oh, yeah.
According to the church fathers, Simon Magus, who later came to be regarded as the arch-heretic, already offered an interpretation of our parable. For him, the lost sheep was Helena, the prostitute from Tyre, who was the first incarnation of the primal mother, the first idea that had become matter, while her savior, was the her savior was the good shepherd. Related to this interpretation is that of the Valentinians, who regarded the lost sheep as Akamoth, that is, the divine wisdom that had fallen out of the divine pleroma into lower matter. This wisdom, in turn, is in turn the mother of the Gnostics, who prefigures their way. Mark the Gnostic uses the numbers in the parables of the lost drachma and the lost sheep in a complicated system of numerical speculation that, in my judgment, assumes that the 99 sheep represent the heavenly pleroma, while the lost sheep is the fallen eon that has been captured by matter. There's already a lot to go into there about the pleroma and the aeons, and oh my god.
Yeah, we could do some more focused stuff on Gnosticism eventually.
That'd be pretty fun. And then I'm just also going to go over the church's interpretation. One finds several of the Orthodox interpretations' basic motifs as early as Irenaeus. The shepherd is the Logos. His descent from the mountains is his incarnation, and the lost sheep, as Irenaeus claims against the Gnostics, is his own creature. Tertullian emphasizes against the Docetists that the lost sheep was saved along with its body. That's just a fun one. Oh my God, Tertullian. Him and the Docetists did not get along. In Origin, all of the basic elements of the church's classical interpretation are present. The good shepherd is the redeemer. The sheep are the entire rational creation, whereby the 99 left behind on the mountains are the angels. The sheep that is saved below is the valley of tears, is the that is saved below in the Valley of Tears is the Adamic humanity. Yeah, that's more traditional interpretation.
So the parable of the lost sheep is found also in Luke 15:3-7. There it applies to unbelievers. Here to believers. Same parable, different ideas. But the Jewish annotated version points out that the point is that every community member is important. And this is found in Ezekiel 34:11-22, 1 Timothy, and 2 Peter. So there you go. Should I?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Moreover, if thy brother shall trespass against thee, go and tell him his fault between thee and him alone. If he shall hear thee, thou hast gained thy brother. But if he will not hear thee, then take with thee one or two more, that in the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses every word may be established. This is important because in Jewish law, you would need multiple witnesses in order to make a legal claim.
Yeah, and class, thank you for the $4.99. And you know what? We wish we could.
We wish we could set Baal upright. I guess we can lean him.
Yeah, we got to lean him because Baal lost his base. Yeah.
Did you bring the Ark of the Covenant in and it fell down in front
That's
of the
probably
Ark?
what happened.
Well,
at the moment that it fell, the Ark of the Covenant must have been in here.
Yeah.
And then eventually, I guess we got rid of it. Actually,
Yeah.
we don't really have. Do we have anything else in here that counts as an idol?
There's
I have a bunch of random
Jumbo.
Oh yeah, Dejambo, but
Don't bring
Dejambo's
up
fine.
Dejambo.
Why can we talk about Dejambo?
Secrets.
Oh, well, you could put it. You could get a little sort of modeling clay and stick the ball in the modeling clay to help it stay upright.
That's a good point.
Pretty
Okay, what if
easily,
we just
actually.
tell the patrons about Dejambo?
No,
What? Oh my god.
it's a secret
Oh, it's not,
to
it's
everyone.
not a secret.
It's between me and like one other person.
What other person?
Multiple people.
Liar.
Yes, but each one other.
Where did we
Wow.
buy Baal? We printed Baal.
Yeah, we printed Baal.
printed Baal. I found a free thing that said it was a bowl, and then I printed that bowl with the crappy printer I have,
Yeah, it's
and I spray painted it gold.
yeah. So that's kind of cool that this was 3D printed.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yes.
Anyways, let me keep going.
And also the 2 and 3 witnesses thing that pops up again in the Johannine epistles because it's very important for the Trinity.
Yeah.
I'm sure you can imagine.
So, and if he shall neglect to hear them, tell it unto the church. But if he neglect to hear the church, let him be unto thee as a heathen man and a publican. Now, this is the only time, other than the one reference we've already gotten, that
Yeah, but if he refuses to
other
listen,
than 16:18, these are the only 2 places where the Gospels speak of the church.
yeah, tell it to the church. But if he refuses to listen, even to the church, let him be to you as the Gentile and the tax collector.
Yeah. So a pagan and a sinner.
Yeah, damn tax collectors, bureaucrats.
Yep. I wonder how tax collectors today who are Christian reconcile their occupation with their religious belief.
That's a good question. I would really like to hear their thoughts on this verse.
Even like bank managers or like
Well, maybe because like you know they're Christian, so it's okay if they're if they're tax collectors.
What if you're Jewish and you have to, as working in a bank, provide loans that have interest, and other Jews come in to get a loan from the bank that you work at? Because there is a law against charging interest and usury for people who are also Jewish.
I don't know why you're asking me how they would
You're
reconcile
the
that.
expert religious studies man.
I'm not the guy that's trying to reconcile these things.
Okay.
Well, get on that. Thanks.
Verily I say unto you, whatsoever ye shall bind on earth shall be bound in heaven, and whatsoever ye shall loose on earth shall be loosed in heaven. Again I say unto you, that if 2 of you shall agree on earth as touching anything that they shall ask, it shall be done for them of my Father which is in heaven. So I guess Jesus is a hermeticist who holds as above, so below. So that's interesting.
Where's that wrench I had before to throw into this?
For where 2 or 3 are gathered together in my name, there am I in the midst of them.
You know, I did want to point out something here because you do bring up a good point. So the 2 verses, 19 and 20, became very important in the history of interpretation. It is difficult to organize or to evaluate the streams of interpretation, and then he gives a little selection. The presence of Christ in his church was translated into the language of the ancient church's Christology. God incarnate is not only present where his visible body is. He is neither only in heaven nor only on earth. He is omnipresent and active as God's logos among his believers. Since the believers gathered in prayer are at the same time the body of Christ, he can even be understood to be present by being identical with them.
Now, here's an alternative explanation.
Yeah.
The rabbinical Judaism, rabbinical texts hold that the Shekinah is present when 2 people are together studying Torah.
Yeah, that's true.
Holy crap, you guys had the Shekinah this whole time and you didn't even know.
Yeah, I thought it left.
Wow, it's
Hey, we're not studying Torah anymore.
Yeah.
you had it for a while.
Yeah.
Well, technically, in some ways, we are studying Torah because Jesus comments on materials from the Torah.
Yeah, he does.
So
Yes.
Shekinah should still be present.
Yeah, so all these, he gives like a list of various interpretations here, but they all basically go down to where is God in all this?
No,
Which is why I love Christology. It's just really interesting because they get to talk about stuff like this.
I mean, if you hold the position that God is omnipresent, then there's nothing particularly special about that, is there?
No, but then it becomes like, okay, well, God's omnipresent and whatnot, but like, how do you identify every part of the story?
And how omnipresent is he? Because, clouds. They block prayer.
Oh, well, yeah,
Right.
that is accurate, yeah. I forget what book was that in?
It was in one of the shorter books at the end of the old.
Was it?
Yeah, I think so. It wasn't that long ago, last year.
Yeah. Last year was not that long ago.
Somewhere in there.
Yeah. All right. But I do remember that about clouds blocking prayer.
Yeah, there's all sorts of weird selective BS that makes me question how omnipresent, omnipotent are you? Like, what are the limitations? There seem to be some arbitrarily placed, and he seems to be forgetful from time to time.
Yeah. I mean, that's why that's the importance in recognizing many authors with different perspectives.
It's just like the Warhammer thing. It's been around for too long, and all the different authors have different interpretations of different guys. So, yeah, you get the same conflations.
Yeah. Although this has been around
Way longer. Way more conflated.
Yep. Then came Peter to him and said, Lord, how oft shall my brother sin against me, and I forgive him? Till 7 times? Jesus saith unto him, I say not unto thee until 7 times, but until 77 times, or until 70 times 7.
Right.
Yeah.
So, go ahead, Landon.
Go ahet. No, I'll have to look up to it. I have a comment on that.
Well, the comment that I have is that 70 times 7 is times without number.
Yeah, we've had that before in a lot of different ways, actually, where you have this where you take like the number 7, multiply it by 49 was used a lot, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you would multiply it by like multiples of 7 or by 7 itself to represent, like, it's not just whole, it's like the wholeness of wholeness. So obviously huge here. But interestingly, so there are two possible translations. So either 77 times and 7 times 70 times. Linguistically, the first version is not completely correct, since in the case of composite numerical adverbs, the ending akis always appears with the last number. The second is even less correct, since there is no substantive. Okay, I guess that's not actually a huge issue, honestly. But let's. I want to hear the rest of his thing. Since there's no substantive after the multiplied cardinal numbers, or in response to the questioning aptakis, one would likewise expect a numerical adverb. The same lack of clarity is in the Septuagint text of Genesis 4:24, the text on which verse 22 is likely based.
Now, this is a position that Jesus takes, which is against the school of rabbinical Judaism. So rabbinic sources indicate that one is only required to seek forgiveness 3 times in multiple areas of rabbinical texts. But the one approach should also forgive, e.g., this is quoting from Ta'an. One should be pliant as a reed, not hard like cedar in granting forgiveness. All who act mercifully toward their fellows will be treated mercifully by heaven, and who do not act mercifully toward their fellows will not be treated mercifully in heaven.
Oh, here's a interesting point, actually. So 7 is, of course, the traditional number of perfection, as well as completeness, I guess. So that Peter suggests forgiving 7 times does not mean, therefore, that he wants to grant his brother only a limited forgiveness. Instead, the sense of Peter's question is perfect forgiveness expected of me?
Now, here's a remarkable phrasing issue, which is not brought up there. 77 times, or 70 times 7, or what have you. The same phrasing. The same phrasing as Genesis 4:24 in the Septuagint, which mentions fratricide. Matthew's phrasing may contrast an ancient blood feud with the intimacy of Jesus' community.
Okay, well, the thing is, when it comes to these gospel authors, you know how often they took Old Testament verses out of context?
Yeah.
A lot.
Pretty often.
In their interpretations.
But
Of course, Christian apologists would say they're not taking out of context because this is God's word, and therefore they're just giving you the proper context. That's a rationalization.
A new dispensation.
But good.
Go ahead.
I say so. I don't think that there is an implication that John should do this, 490 times ask for forgiveness. Although I suspect that there's some pious person that went and did it 490 times on something or other. On verse 22, there's an interesting thing, and it is done with this Lock Foundation Bible, where it says Jesus said, right? It puts an asterisk. So my verse says Jesus said to him, do I not say up to 7 times, but 70 times 7? The word said has an asterisk in my Bible put before it.
Right.
So in space asterisk said.
In mine, it's Jesus saith, right?
Yes. And so it says here, so in this Lock Bible, there is a section which says, there's this really big bold letter command, important, the following information should be read. And on asterisk, it says, in regards to the use of the Greek in historical present, the board recognized that some context, the present tense seems more unexpected and unjustified to the English reader than the past tense would have been. But Greek authors frequently use the present tense for the sake of a heightened vividness, thereby transporting their readers' imagination into the actual scene of the time of the occurrence. However, the board felt that it would be wise to change the historic presence into English past tenses. Therefore, verbs marked with an asterisk represent historical presence in the Greek, which would have been translated into English, which had been translated in English in the past tense in order to conform with modern usage.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense, honestly, because the Greek does say Jesus said to him, so like that's in the present tense, but because it is a historical present that's meant to kind of put you at that spot.
We use the same thing in English.
Yeah.
We'll say things like, well, Lao Tzu says.
Yeah, that's true.
And other times we'll say said.
Yeah.
Right.
But like effectively,
we can also be like, so I goes down to the market and I says to the guy, right?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. you could do that.
Yeah. Let me continue because we're at almost an hour and we haven't finished the first chapter we're covering today. Therefore is the kingdom of heaven likened unto a certain king, which would take account of his servants. By the way, we're at almost an hour. We haven't finished the first chapter, and you said there wouldn't be much to say about this material.
You got me. You're right. Oops.
And when he had begun to reckon, one was brought unto him, which owed him 10,000 talents. Presumably a silver.
Quite a bit, though.
Yeah, that's a lot of money.
It is, yeah.
Like, holy shit. That's a lot of money.
I remember.
And how much is a talent? Did the text say a talent is?
Usually,
mine says about $10 million in silver content, but worth much more in buying power.
Yeah, so I'll put it this way. You guys remember Rhodes, the island? I watched a little mini documentary.
Yes, the island of Rhodes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, they supposedly built this big colossus, right? And they funded it after winning a war by like selling and using the siege infantry's metal to build this thing. But they still needed enough construction material to finish this 100 and something foot tall statue, right? Well, it cost 59 talents of silver to finish the project. So put that in comparison. The Colossus of Rhodes, even with other construction material from siege equipment and metal melted down in the local area, still costs that much. And this guy owes how many?
10,000 apparently.
This is nuts. This is literally nuts.
This is many millions of dollars.
Thank you for the $1.99. Here's another super chat to slow you down. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow, you're doing great.
Well, continue to slow us down, if you please.
We also accept payments and talents of silver.
Yeah, any one talent of silver would.
Information regarding the unit of talent?
I do not have information regarding the unit of talent, just that it is worth many millions of dollars in today's currency.
Apparently, yeah, it's quite a bit. You said, what verse was that, actually?
24.
Okay.
Yes,
yeah,
24.
talent was... Okay, I see. It's worth about 20 years worth of wages for a laborer.
Sure.
So, again, in context, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
200,000 years of you're saying 10,000 talents is worth 20 years?
No, one.
One talent.
One talent
is worth 20
years wages. So 200,000 years of wages. Okay.
You owe me 200,000 years of wages. We're not going to let you die. You're working forever.
Yeah, basically.
It's insane. 10,000 talents. But for as much as he had not to pay, his Lord commanded him to be sold, and his wife and children, and all that he had, and payment to be made.
Oh yeah, this is just like that part in
sell the wife and children because obviously they're property. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's good.
Yeah,
there.
There's some good classic Old Testament stuff there.
Very Judeo-Christian. The servant therefore fell down and worshipped him, saying, Lord, have patience with me, and I will pay thee all. Then the Lord of that servant was moved with compassion, and loosed him, and forgave him the debt. But the same servant went out and found one of his fellow servants, which owed him 100 pence. And he laid hands on him, and took him by the throat, saying, "Pay me that thou owest." And his fellow servant fell down at his feet and besought him, saying, "Have patience with me, and I will pay thee all." And he would not, but went and cast him into prison till he should pay the debt. So when his fellow servants saw what was done, they were very sorry, and came and told unto their Lord all that was done. Then his Lord, after that he had called him, said unto him, "O thou wicked servant, I forgave thee all that debt, because thou desiredst me. Shouldst not thou also have compassion on thy fellow servant, even as I had pity on thee?" And his Lord was wroth, and delivered him to the tormentors, till he should pay all that was due unto him. So likewise shall my heavenly Father do also unto you, if ye from your hearts forgive not everyone his brother their trespasses.
Okay, so if you aren't a forgiving person, then God won't be forgiving to you.
Yeah.
Right.
I will point out that some of these verses were used by the slave trade to rationalize their use, because they talk about, the thing was that, well, look, slavery is being done as a normal course of things. Here are verses that talk about slavery, not condemning the slavery, because they would say, well, if Jesus was against slavery, he would have condemned the master holding slaves, but he didn't. He condemned greediness and taking things. And so that was a big part of, let's say, certain treasonous people in the Confederacy defending their use of slavery and their defiance of laws against it.
Well, it's not only just that. Here, the slave owner is directly compared to God.
That's true.
Too much.
The implication
there.
Yeah, the implication there as well is that in essence, all of the people are slaves to God. They are his property.
That is a thing that they even call themselves sometimes, like in some of the epistles. They use doulos, that he's they're a slave, they're a servant to God. Yeah, that is a title that they give themselves.
So not only are slave owners directly compared to God in a favorable manner, but also the holy people, like the especially holy people, right, are all slaves and are favorable towards being slaves.
Yep. Yeah, that is accurate. Nothing you said is wrong there. I would note that the point of the section is on forgiveness.
There is a form of government where everyone's a slave, but I forgot the name of that government. It's a hilarious name.
America. No, I'm kidding.
Oh my gosh.
I'm kidding.
It's a really, it's a weird name. I'll have to get back to you on it.
Okay. So, I mean, I think at this point in the Bible, by the way, that's the end of chapter 18. If you're enjoying the stream, like, share, subscribe. But I think at this point in the Bible, we can safely come to the conclusion that Judeo-Christian morality is garbage morality.
Yeah, that's pretty bad. Like, even in this section where they're talking about forgiveness, which is, a good thing. It's a good thing not to be greedy, generally speaking. It's a good thing to forgive. These are classically good things. But at the same, while that is true, there's also this whole other section. There's the other side of the coin, where it's like there's so much shittiness in here.
Yeah.
Like, I'm glad that most Christians I know, at least, take the good stuff.
Well, I mean, ideally, you should kind of charitably interpret materials, but there's only, you can only be charitable to such an extent.
Yeah.
It's quite ridiculous, a lot of the stuff that we encounter in here. And I don't think it would be possible to explain away, even with the best apologists.
Yeah.
Right? they would have to bite the bullet and be like, oh yeah, slavery's good.
That's what they'd have
Yeah,
to say.
I think now it just kind of boils down to that's how it was at the time, and that is an accurate statement.
And part
But
of
yeah.
the reason that it was like that at the time is because you had holy texts like this that people based their lives around that justified it.
I mean, that's
Or
the
at
reason.
the very least, did not at all discourage it.
Yeah,
in
that's
this case.
the reason why it would have been sustained. But of course, it was already like this when at the time this was written. So
I mean, we also know that these texts have been edited over
they have been.
time.
Yeah.
And so,
There's nothing textual about this verse, though.
I mean, the church understands that they can edit texts, right? Like the Catholic Church has made their edits. They changed the 10 Commandments to allow for idols.
So the thing about textual history is that there's no way of knowing a lot of it, obviously,
Right.
because it's just not preserved. But the stuff that we do have preserved, scholars use that evidence to come up with more likely readings, and they do that for Hebrew and for Greek and all the languages. So,
But the way that it's actually used in the religions when they make their textual edits, it's not for like a preservation purpose. It's for the purpose of spreading a particular polemic, which raises the question of why these pro-slavery statements still today exist in the Bible.
So, well, of course, at some point they were printed, and you can't really get around
Right.
like changing much after that. So
The same can be said about the commonly written manuscripts, of which there were changes made over time with other previous books, right?
yeah. So when a lot of the time, like they just won't change something whole cloth for no reason. There's usually a reason these things happen. Sometimes you have just mistakes. Other times you have additions to make it go in line with another verse that the author or that the copyist is familiar with. Sometimes maybe there's something that's not clear, so the author tries to clear it up, and now you have a new reading. So in every case, it's going to be different. In fact, I recommend Bruce Metzger's The Text of the New Testament to elucidate more on that, because there are a lot of methods.
Okay, well, we're over an hour in.
Yeah.
You're
I
making
gotta
it to
use the
19.
restroom.
Okay, you can do that.
We're going into chapter 19.
Chapter 19. All right,
I will do something similar. So I guess I'll be one of the ones also taken up by Jesus with my thoughts.
Oh my God. Okay, so is Jesus coming? Okay, fine. Jesus is coming, I guess, because I hear it now. Holy.
Behold, I am your Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, and I want to let all you heathens and sinners know that I support this wonderful episode of Atheist Sunday School. Lawrence and Reuben try their very best to bring you the true glory of the Bible, and they need your help. They have provided links to their Patreon page and other social media just for you. Once again, my name is Jesus Christ, and this is Milwaukee Atheists. The Lord is with them. God bless.
Jesus, this time I was expecting you, for some reason. It seems that you've taken
Everything.
Reuben and Landon. Everyone is gone. I am alone. Life is meaningless. So how about we talk a little bit about chapter 19, because that's the next thing we're into. It's going to be about divorce. You like divorce, Chris? Is that your favorite thing?
I'm not here.
Oh. You guys like divorce? Like you like jazz, but divorce? No? Okay, fine. You got divorce. We have, it looks like, we have an actual story coming up too, as well. But either way.
All Lawrence is capable of saying is divorce.
Yeah, divorce.
Get in there.
All right.
Save him.
So, Ruben, you like divorce? He's returned.
I mean, divorce is what divorce does.
Yeah, that's accurate. All right. So
But we also have this thing written in here that says no divorce. No divorce. That's written by pen by the previous owner of this Jewish annotated New Testament.
that's hilarious.
yeah.
So it's like it's double annotated actually.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So
There we go.
let's talk about divorce and let's see what Jesus' thoughts are on it.
Yes.
Now, when Jesus had finished saying these things, he went away from Galilee and entered the region of Judea beyond the Jordan. And large crowds followed him, and he healed them there. This is just a continuation of all the healing that he's done already.
Yes.
A lot of people like to follow him. And Pharisees came up to him and tested him by asking, "Is it lawful to divorce one's wife for any cause?" He answered, "Have you not read that he who created them from the beginning made them male and female, and said, 'Therefore a man shall leave his father and his mother and hold fast to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh'?"
So, this also appears in Mark. Mark 2:16 has these Pharisees come in. For any and every reason, or your translation was a little different.
Yeah.
But that part of the question is not in the parallel passage in Mark. Matthew possibly included it because he was writing to the Jews who were aware of the interpretation of Deuteronomy 24:1 through 4. Shammai held that something indecent meant marital unfaithfulness in the Deuteronomy passage, which justifies divorce, the only allowable cause for divorce. Hillel, 60 BC to 20 AD, emphasized the preceding clause, who becomes displeasing to him. He would allow a man to divorce his wife if she did anything he disliked, even if she burned his food while cooking it. Jesus clearly took the side of Shammai, but only after first pointing back to God's original ideal for marriage in Genesis 1:27 through 2:24.
I just want to point out here the connection, like when it says that all like they would become one flesh and whatnot. So yeah, unlike the rabbinic exegesis, but like the Qumran community, Jesus understands Genesis 1:27 in terms of marriage. It is possible that this exegesis presupposes the Jewish concept found in both Philo and the rabbis, that God created the primordial human being of Genesis 1 androgynous. Woman and man are thus intimately bound because it is only together that they are human in the fullest sense of the word. I think we've covered stuff like that before. That's
Yeah.
a Greek thing as well, I believe.
We also have a difference in Mark where the possibility of women divorcing their husbands is brought up. This is a possibility which derives from Roman law, but under Jewish law, women can't divorce their husbands. Only men can divorce their wives.
Yep. Gotta stay with that guy. All right, so yeah, them becoming one flesh and not. So they are no longer two, but one flesh. What therefore God has joined together, let not man separate. Yeah, so it's interpreted to be a marriage there.
There's a bit more about the school of Shammai and the school of Hillel. So the school of Shammai took the phrase narrowly in Deuteronomy to refer to a case of sexual impropriety, most probably adultery. The school of Hillel focused on the word dabar, which means thing, matter, or word, and so taught that a man could divorce his wife for any reason, even if she spoiled his dish of food. Probably the Hillelite position stressed marriage as a voluntary and loving relationship. If anger over a burnt dinner produced a desire to divorce, then the relationship had effectively ended anyway.
Oh, okay. Yeah, fair enough.
Okay.
Well, fair enough.
Yeah, fair enough. All right. They said to him, Why then did Moses command one to give a certificate of divorce and to send her away? He said to them, because of your hardness of heart, Moses allowed you to divorce your wives, but from the beginning it was not so. All right, so yeah, but it was because you guys sucked so hard, God eventually caved and said, fine, you don't have to stay with this one person the rest of your life, even though you hate them. Fine. And I say to you, whoever divorces his wife, except for sexual immorality, and marries another, commits adultery.
Ooh.
The disciples said to him, if such is the case of a man with his wife, it is better not to marry. But he said to them, not everyone can receive this saying, but only those to whom it is given.
Thank you, Reggiano Gray.
Reggiano Gray.
Thank you, Reggiano.
Awesome today.
And you point out that he was exempt from this partly because he formed his own church because the Pope was not rivalable.
Yeah, the Pope was like, no. And he was like, I'll start my own church and I'll say yes. That's essentially what happened there.
So commentators continue to disagree over the sexual irregularity to which Matthew refers, with most opting for adultery, even though the technical Greek term for adultery is not used. According to the Mishnah, an adulteress is forbidden to her husband and her lover. The woman's irregular sexual relations force her husband to divorce her. This view underlies Joseph's initial decision to divorce Mary in chapter 1 and Abraham's fear in the Genesis Apocryphon that Pharaoh will have intercourse with Sarah, 1 QAP Genesis 2015. Sexual irregularity, which would render a woman impure and unfit to continue a marriage, may extend to involuntary intercourse due to rape, captivity, and the like. Others suggest that the irregularity which would void a marriage is a blood relationship between the spouses forbidden by Scripture. The underlying cultural assumption is that a woman must be sexually pure to continue in a marriage, even when divorce is permitted because of sexual irregularity. It is unclear whether Matthew allows remarriage while the spouse is alive. Certainly, the woman affected by sexual irregularity, if forbidden to her husband by law and custom, would be forbidden to another man also. Thus, she could not remarry, but the status of the husband is unclear. The Temple Scroll may address a similar issue, but like Matthew, it is unclear. Quote, the king shall not take another wife in addition to his wife, for she alone shall be with him all the time of her life. If she dies, he may marry another. 11Q Temple 57, 17 through 19. This passage may forbid royal polygamy, or it may forbid him and implicitly all Israelites, maybe, to remarry while his divorced wife lives. In the early Christian tradition, the patristic writers taught that remarriages after divorce was forbidden.
Thanks, Carlos.
Carlos, thank you for the
Thank you,
$4.99.
Carlos.
Thank you. Thank you.
But many Reformation and modern authors have allowed it, albeit with hesitation. So there's a lot here. It actually goes paragraphs and paragraphs and paragraphs about divorce.
Because historically, it's been a very important passage.
Yes. But that is essentially the crux of it, that there's difficulty in understanding what's going on here, why what's being said is being said, and what specific statuses apply to each person within this marriage contract.
Yeah. And when it comes to, those, who receives it, right? Because it's apparently not towards everyone. I think the context here, and with the Greek is the word there comes from koreo. So I make room or contain. So you could have intellectual understanding, or you could have like willing or obedience. That's another possibility there.
Mm-hmm.
So only like the people that'll listen can do this, potentially. So, for there are eunuchs who have been so from birth, and there are eunuchs who have been made eunuchs by men, and there are eunuchs who have made themselves eunuchs for the sake of the kingdom of heaven. Let the one who is able to receive this receive it.
So this is often cited as an example of why priests shouldn't marry, although that business and marriage again frequently was seen as a property. Binding of property and of acquisition of property. That being said, as was pointed out by J. Dollarsign, there were people even in the early church who would not marry, and it wasn't necessarily for the purpose of showing their piety, but because they could then have a romp in the hay, we should probably say, on this thing without getting demonetized. They would do that in order to say, well, I'm not married, and so therefore I'm not in violation of this verse. That being said, obviously this is an area that, for example, the Roman Catholic Church uses to rationalize why priests should be celibate, allegedly.
Yeah.
Of course, we know the history of that.
Which is really strange, given that God's first commandment to Abraham, really, was to be fruitful and multiply.
Yeah.
That was the whole agreement, right?
Yeah, that was a thing that he wanted to. He told Adam.
Yeah.
Everybody.
I mean, why?
He did tell to basically everybody. Yeah.
Yeah. Why? This thing is repeated over and over and over again. Why they would think that celibacy is something that God wants is beyond me.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Well, there's all kinds of apologetics you can apply to this sort of thing. The rationalization of apologetics is extraordinary. And one of them, they could say, well, the New Testament, it replaces the Old Testament and fulfills things. And they could say, well, the earth has already been multiplied in full, so you don't need to do this anymore. That was only for the early days and other rational stuff. It is, however, a common theme that Christianity and it's true of a number of religions are see sex as something they need to control. And this is one of the examples of that.
Yeah, you got to be real careful about other people having a good time. So like, yeah, in terms of don't cheat on your spouse and whatnot. Although the extent that it goes to is, I think, isn't it? I think it's in Michigan, right? Where wasn't it like, I think it was Michigan where blowjobs were illegal.
Oh, because they're sodomy?
Is that like, I think it's in Michigan, right? Or in Detroit or something? I don't know, but
I don't know what you're talking
it's specifically it's I think it was head that was illegal.
Okay.
But
I didn't hear about that.
That was it was a while ago. So it may have changed, but I think it was in Michigan. I don't, if someone remembers this as vividly as I do, please let me know. Maybe it wasn't Michigan, but I think it was.
Okay. Well, why don't you continue reading the Bible?
Will do. Then children were brought to him that he may lay his hands on them and pray. The disciples rebuked the people, but Jesus said, "Let the little children come to me and do not hinder them."
Oh, no.
Oh, isn't that sweet?
So this explains another Catholic tradition.
For to such belongs the kingdom of heaven. And he laid his hands on them and went away.
What does that mean?
It means he...
Laugh.
Well, it doesn't even say that he healed them.
Presumably it was to bless them.
Yeah, for a blessing would make sense, yeah. But that's your lot. That's what you're getting there.
Mm-hmm.
And behold,
Behold.
Behold.
a man came up to him, saying, Teacher, what good deed must I do to have eternal life? And he said to him, Why do you ask me about what is good? There's only one who is good. If you would enter life, keep the commandments. He said to him, Which one? Or which ones? And Jesus said, You shall not murder, you shall not commit adultery, you shall not steal, you shall not bear false witness, honor your father and mother, and you shall love your neighbors as yourself.
Okay,
That's 6.
so
Most important ones.
the question.
But apparently there's more, actually. There's more.
Well, hold on. The question is illegitimate. Eternal life was regarded as part of the covenant with Israel. Living within the covenant is a response to the gift.
But wouldn't you have to, like, follow those rules, though? That's you're living in accordance with those things.
Yeah, but the rules would literally be the law, right?
Yeah.
So
You have to follow all of them.
Yeah, and this person probably is aware of the law,
Yeah.
right? So why even ask the question?
So
The answer is obvious. You follow the law, and that's all you need to do. You can literally go to any rabbi, right? I'm sure they have like some guards or police or something that they use or judges.
yeah,
like,
judges.
You would think that there's tons of people who are aware of the law. You would think that as part of their education, they would be exposed to what is legal and illegal. Why even ask the question? Now, Jesus' response here is that there's only one who's good. So the good is not something to be done as meritorious in itself. God alone is good, and all other goodness derives from him. Even the keeping of the commandments, which Jesus proceeded to enumerate. So the idea is that
So I mean, there is more.
You get to heaven not through acts, but through faith. Great.
Well, not even by faith necessarily. It's like by because you are faithful and do these things that are in accordance with the law,
Right.
then God will bestow upon you this goodness.
So you need both.
Yeah.
But also, how does this work with the Trinity, right? Jesus outright says, why ask me?
Right, there's only
I'm
one.
not God.
Yeah. Well, he
Right?
doesn't say I'm not God.
Well,
but he says there's only one who is good.
Right.
And so,
this
yeah.
is presumably not himself.
You'd
because
think,
he's
yeah.
But again, Christian apologetics known as rationalizing the rationalizing the irrational, I should say. They would say, well, Jesus is God, and the one who is good, he's referring to himself and God the Father and the Holy Spirit. So
Yeah, this one agrees with you. Me. Bad phrasing.
You.
Yeah.
Okay.
This
Gotcha.
one. Yeah.
Okay, so I will. Oh man, yeah. There's a whole ton about this because obviously the Christological issue is pretty big there. So I'm not even going to start on that here. We have videos on Christologies. So
why don't you continue?
we'll do. So the young man said to him, "All these I have kept. What do I still lack?" Jesus said to him, "If you would be perfect, go sell what you possess and give it to the poor, and you will have treasures in heaven. And come, follow me." When the young man heard this, he went away sorrowful, for he had great possessions. So yeah, I guess if you're in such a great place, in faithfully speaking, then you would be fine giving up all this stuff. But I guess he isn't.
Now, this is another somewhat contradictory statement with rabbinical law. Now, rabbinical law does mandate giving to the poor.
Yeah.
But it discourages people from impoverishing themselves because that makes them dependent on others.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Jesus said to his disciples, "Truly, I say to you." Oh, so this guy left and now he's talking to his disciples. "Truly, I say to you, only with difficulty will a rich person enter the kingdom of heaven. Again, I tell you, it is easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich person to enter the kingdom of God, because they're not giving." So the whole point of it is because they're not giving, and if they were living in accordance with the law, they wouldn't be massively wealthy.
Now, I've heard that this refers to a specific gate in Jerusalem, the Eye of the Needle.
Oh, okay. I'll look this
Whereas,
up. Hold on.
the commentaries here just point out that this is an impossibility.
Sure.
So
It doesn't seem like there's anything about a gate here, about like an actual gate.
Gate. Then is what you're suggesting, or
what I have heard from Christians is that the Eye of the Needle refers to a specific gate in Jerusalem that was used for trade, and that was extremely difficult to get through this specific gate because of how many people would go through it. So that's just what I've heard. I don't know if there is any historical justification for that claim.
Yeah, I got nothing. There is nothing about an actual like real gate that this is referring to. So I'm not sure.
Let me see if I can find anything on it.
All right, I will continue reading, however. Yeah, there's nothing textually here. Yeah. All right. I'm going to continue on then.
So the term Eye of a Needle is used as a metaphor for a very narrow opening.
Yeah.
It occurs several times through the Talmud. The New Testament quotes what we just said. It also appears in the Quran. And the Eye of the Needle, this is from Wikipedia, so take that as you will.
All right.
The Eye of the Needle has been claimed to be a gate in Jerusalem which opened after the main gate was closed at night. A camel could not pass through the smaller gate unless it was stooped and had its baggage removed. The story has been put forth since at least the 15th century, and possibly as far back as the 9th century. However, there is no widely accepted evidence for the existence of such a gate. In addition to the lack of archaeological evidence for a gate, there is no textual support for it. The three Gospels that mention it, Matthew 19, Mark 10, Luke 18, each author uses slightly different words for this phrase. Matthew calls the Eye of the Needle the tripematos rapidos, while Mark calls it the trimalias tes rapidos. Both are using the same word for needle, referring specifically to a tailor's needle, but they're using different language to talk about the Eye of the Needle. Luke not only adds a third option for the eye, but uses the word for surgeon's needle rather than the word for a tailor's needle, trematos belones. If the gate would have existed, the apostles who knew the area at the time would have referred to the gate by name and not used different descriptions.
Fair enough.
Yeah, so no textual evidence, no historical evidence, no archaeological evidence.
Mostly wordplay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
that's bullshit for any Christians who use that line of reasoning.
yeah, I've never heard that argument though.
I mean,
That's
it's
interesting.
been around since the 15th century.
yeah,
I
apparently.
guess. Possibly as early as the 9th.
Wow.
Let's see. Okay, so when the disciples heard this, they were greatly astonished, saying, "Who then can be saved?" But Jesus looked at them and said, "With man, this is impossible, but with God, all things are possible." Then Peter said in reply, "See, we have left everything and followed you. What then will we have?" Jesus said to them, "Truly I say to you, in the new world, when the Son of Man will sit on his glorious throne, you who have followed me will also sit on 12 thrones, judging the 12 tribes of Israel. And everyone who
12?
has left houses and brothers or sisters or fathers or mother or children or lands for my name's sake will receive 100-fold and will inherit eternal life. But many who are first will be last, and the last first.
So specifically it says 12.
Yeah.
Is this, I guess, implying the 12 apostles? But what about Judas? Does Judas have a throne?
Of course.
Well-
he gets the half tribe of Manasseh.
Yeah.
Well played. Well played.
Yeah, that was good. That was good.
Thank
If you follow the gospel of Judas, he's just doing what he's supposed to.
Yeah, exactly. If you read other texts, they're like he's not the bad guy because without him, people wouldn't have salvation.
Yeah, without Judas, Jesus never dies and gets resurrected. So
That's right.
Yeah.
he's the good guy of the story.
Or at least very much contingent on the story existing.
Yep.
Right.
In fact, you might say he was the best apostle.
Wow.
He did do the thing that he was meant to do. So I'm kind of confused there about the first being last. I know it's supposed to be like Alpha and Omega type of stuff. So the Logion about the many who are first who will be last and vice versa brings the thought to a close for the time being. It is clear from the context that one is thinking of the great reversal in the last judgment. Yeah, that's right. Because throughout the entire Old Testament, they were doing this thing where like the role reversal in society was a huge part of the end times and this new world. Like everything will be, in a sense, flipped on its head. So that makes sense, actually.
Yeah, there's some commentary in Eerdmans here. It says, question by Peter on behalf of the disciples elicits an explicit promise of reward for those who endure poverty for Jesus. The 12 will join the Son of Man in judging Israel at the end of the world. The Son of Man as judge and the 12 tribes of Israel appear in various scenarios of the end. The renewal, verse 28, palingenesia, is a term used in Greek Stoic philosophy for the cyclical destruction and then rebirth of the universe. Some hold that Matthew envisions a judgment for Israel separate from the judgment of the Gentiles in the parable of the sheep and the goats, but it's doubtful that Matthew means to separate the judgment of the Jews and Gentiles chronologically. Some New Testament texts distinguish Jews and Gentiles, as in Romans, or believers in Jesus from non-believers, as in 1 Corinthians and 1 Peter, without clearly separate judgments. Second Temple Jewish literature envisions the destruction of oppressors and the vindication of the just who are faithful to God at the end of the world. But the process seems to be one continuous action of doing away with evil and then establishing God's rule. In addition to the special role given to the 12, all disciples who have followed Jesus by leaving their houses, families, and fields will ultimately not lose anything, but receive them back 100-fold and inherit eternal life. And let me see if there's any more in this upcoming paragraph.
And it looks like the next section that we'll have.
The final saying of this group of teachings that the first and last will reverse positions expresses well the paradoxical situation in which the author finds himself, as well as the dramatic reversal which is expected at the end for the powerless and oppressed.
Yeah, that is probably the biggest thing there. The end times and whatnot. The new world. So for
The
this
New World Order.
yeah, just like you got Hulk Hogan, you have Kevin Nash, you got Scott Hall, and then you have everyone else who joined the NWO in WCW and turned half the roster or more than half the roster heel. It was a really bad time in terms of power plays in WCW. Anyways, so for this next section, we will have Landon reading that one, and apparently this I think through verse 16, sorry, there has been so many interpretations. We're not possibly going to get to them, But yeah, there's been interpretation during the Reformation from Martin Luther. There's been like an anti-Jewish interpretation. There's been the Catholic one, a more liberal one. There's a ton of them.
However, it's worth pointing out that this parable only occurs in Matthew's gospel. In its original setting, its main point seems to be, according to the NIV commentary, seems to be the sovereign graciousness and generosity of God extended to latecomers into God's kingdom. It's addressed to grumblers, as we see in verse 11, who just can't handle this amazing expression of God's grace. They almost certainly represent the religious leaders who oppose Jesus.
Yeah. And again, wasn't Matthew originally a tax collector, somebody who was involved, in his previous profession in money, and so if that's the case, it's not surprising that Matthew brings up economic items that perhaps other authors.
Right. Yeah. Of course, the interpretation of this being Matthew that came much later, because all the Gospels are anonymous themselves.
Yes.
And plus, even Matthew itself, the title Kata Mataion would be like down from Matthew. So Matthew would be the source, not the author.
Yes.
So that, yeah. So even if we were to take that at face value.
So, shall I proceed?
Absolutely.
Yes.
So, chapter 20. For the kingdom of heaven is like a landowner who went out early in the morning to hire laborers for his vineyard. And when he had agreed with the laborers for 1 denarius for the day, he sent them out in their vineyard.
That's the usual wage for a day's work.
Yeah, and apparently 1 denarius could buy 10 to 12 small flat loaves of bread.
Huh.
Yeah, a Roman soldier would receive 1 denarius a day.
And in my particular case, it is a typical day's wages. So he went out, and so he went out about the 3rd hour, and saw others standing idle in the marketplace. And to those he said, "You too go into the vineyard, and whatever is right I will give to you." And so they went. Now apparently he's got problems, because in oftentimes in vineyard harvests, when the grapes are ripe, you need to pick them now. You don't want to let them on the vine for too long if you're trying to achieve a certain level of quality and style of wine. But,
Right.
So
as for the hour, the 3rd hour would be 9 a.m. Later we have the 6th hour through the 9th hour. That would be 3 p.m. Noon to 3 p.m. And the 11th hour also occurs later, which will be 5 p.m.
Didn't we have this kind of time delineation earlier?
There were like divisions of the night.
Divisions of the night, yeah, that's right.
And again, he went about the 6th and the 9th hour and did the same thing. And about the 11th hour, so obviously this is a time between equinox and summer solstice, because otherwise it'd be dark, and it's unlikely the laborers would be working in the vineyards at dark. But it's possible. It's possible. Sometimes some vineyards do actually pick in the evening, and at night to get things off. But anyway, it came about at the 11th hour. He went out and found others standing, and he said to them, "Why have you been standing here idle all day long?" And they said to him, "Because no one's hired us." So he said to them, "You too go into the vineyards." And it came to the evening and come. So we're talking about after sunset. So that does imply this is a time between the equinox and the summer solstice.
Right. And evening is important in this situation, because it was typical at that point in time for laborers to be paid daily on the evening on the day that they worked.
Yes. They didn't have this sort of paycheck currency bank account type stuff.
No direct deposit.
Yes. it says, when the evening had come, the owner of the vineyard said to his foreman, call the laborers and pay them their wages, beginning with the last group first. That's an interesting thing to do.
Yeah, beginning with the last first, the owner sets up the first hired to believe that they will receive more than the last hired.
Okay.
He's playing with her mind. He's playing with the mind. He's playing mind games. So and when those who had hired about the 11th hour came, each received a denarius. And when those hired first came, they thought that they would receive more, and they also received each a denarius.
Well, I mean, they were specifically told they would receive a denarius. The other guys were not told exactly how much they were getting paid.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But the people who came first didn't know that, perhaps, because they were working, right? So and when they received it, they grumbled at the landowner, saying, "These last men have worked only 1 hour, and you have made them equal to us, for those that have borne the burden and of the scorching heat of the day." But he answered and said unto them, "Friend, I am doing you no wrong. Did you not agree with me for a denarius?
Yeah, yes.
Take what is yours and go away. But I wish to give to the last man the same as you. It is not lawful for me to do as I wish with what is my own."
So
Or
the idea
is
would
your
be
eye envious because I am gracious?
So
Thus he said, the last shall be first, and the first shall be last.
So the Talmud does offer a similar story of equal wages for differing durations, but it cites this as fine because a man who worked for 2 hours could have done more than one who worked the whole day.
that's totally possible, but I think this should be like, so no matter how no matter how long you've been doing the work or how long you've been part of the covenant, you still get the same reward as everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I think that's the interpretation here. And I'm sure that is in line with at least one of the interpretations that we talked about before.
Right. So if Hitler repents right before he dies,
Yeah,
he gets the same reward as the Pope.
essentially.
Right?
Hooray.
Probably shouldn't, but this verse,
Judeo-Christian morality.
this section does make that
Yeah.
a total possibility.
So you said that there's been sort of different interpretations. Can you kind of summarize some of these interpretations?
Oh my God. So when it comes to summarizing them, because you have, I listed there was an Orthodox one, there was a Lutheran one. So as early as 1517, Luther saw in our parable the distinction between those in the church who serve in order to get a reward, such as priests and monks, and those humble persons of the 11th hour who would like to work only if someone would find them worthy and hire them. In his later interpretations, verse 16 is increasingly emphasized. Those who do not arrogantly presume that they have earned the penny receive everything, while those who regard themselves as the first workers want to earn more will be last, and they lose everything. No persons are so exalted before God that they have nothing to fear, and no persons are so low that they are beyond hope. So that was Luther's interpretation. Let's see, the Reformation's antithesis between works people and faith people quickly combined with the traditional salvation history interpretation, according to which the workers hired initially are the Jews between Adam and Jesus, while the workers of the last hour are the Gentiles called by Jesus. This traditional interpretation thus takes on a harshly anti-Jewish tendency. A good example is Brenz's interpretation. For him, the agreement about the denarius is it's in Latin, pactum legis. The Jews work all day for reward, but since no one can keep the law, they fail to reach their goal. Thus, what God owes them at the end of the day is not the denarius of eternal life, but his curse. I don't know about that one so much.
That's a long shot.
Yeah, the last part there especially. Here's a more liberal interpretation. It is likely that Kant and the idealistic ethic of duty had a significant influence on today's dominant understanding of our text, although I am not aware of any direct statements from him on this chapter. For Kant, the drudging and mercenary faith of the positive religions was not saving because it is not a free disposition of the heart and thus is not moral. Under Kant's influence in the 19th century, the decisive message of the parable becomes the need to overcome the to overcome the heteronomy that is part of the idea of reward. F.C. Bauer understands the kingdom of God as a progressive realization of God's will on earth and sees in this parable of the workers the idea that everything in the kingdom of God is such a free gift that one can only act with a receptive attitude. Then here's a Catholic interpretation. In the face of this interpretation, the Catholic exegesis of Matthew 21 through 16 was in a difficult position. While it initially further developed the salvation history and paranetic interpretation of the ancient church, it was increasingly forced by the Protestants to defend the traditional Catholic doctrine of reward. For this reason, the problem of the idea of reward comes to dominate the Catholic exegesis. From the days of the ancient church, interpreters had used the many dwelling places of John 14:2 to introduce into the interpretation of Matthew 21 through 16, the idea of diverse merits and degrees of reward. And that was true even through the Crusades, where you would be like, depending on how much you actually did during the Crusades, you'd receive a different amount of penance, I guess, like how much more you need to do in order to achieve that atonement. That lasted throughout. So those are the main interpretations there, essentially.
Oh. Lots of ways to rationalize the book.
Yeah.
Yes.
Let me grab another water.
So, verse 17.
Yes.
And as Jesus was about to go up to Jerusalem, he took the 12 disciples aside by themselves, and on the way he said to them, Behold!
Behold!
Very much.
Ruben also said behold.
I get some beholds in the chat. I appreciate the beholds in the chat as well. So thank you very much for those who are beholding there. As opposed to beheld, if we were taking with the Greek and doing the past tense, we're trying to do the, thank you. We're trying to do the, bring you into the present tense. We could have said beheld, but then we would have dropped our jar of honey, see?
Yeah.
So
Behold!
There it is. Hey, Alice, how's it going? Good to see you.
We are going up to Jerusalem, and the Son of Man will be delivered up to the chief priests and the scribes, and they will condemn him to death. And he will deliver him to the and they will deliver him to the Gentiles to mock and to scourge and crucify him. On the third day, he will be raised up.
He will be raised up?
Yeah, so there's not really, raised up on the Bino, I think.
What verse was that?
That was verse 19.
19.
Okay, this is the NIV. And they will turn him over to the Gentiles to be mocked and flogged and crucified. On the third day, he will be raised to life. Now, this is noteworthy because, first of all, the crucifixion thing. This is not something that the rabbis would do. The rabbinical punishments would be things like burning him to death, stoning him to death, strangling him to death, or beheading him.
Or throwing him in a pit.
No, that was the...
that was Babylon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But crucifixion is a Roman method. So Like, why would we expect the rabbis to do something which is contrary to rabbinical law? You would think that the rabbis would, instead of turning him over to some other people, just point out the instances where he had said things, which I've already pointed out on this episode, which are contrary to rabbinical law, and preach them, use that as the basis of saying that he's committed some form of heresy, and then do the typical rabbinical method of burning, stoning, strangling, or beheading instead of turning him over to be crucified by someone else.
Yeah, I think maybe the way around it would be like, because they're not doing that, right? They're not the ones that are doing the punishment. They are just handing him over to somebody else who can do that punishment. But apparently,
apologetics you could use is to say essentially that at that time where the Romans were trying to maintain control, if this person is indeed popular, given the counts of the crowds following him, being fed, and all those miracles, that it might create a problem for them. So they chicken out by handing over to the Romans, so the Romans don't get mad at them for executing somebody that was popular and creating a disturbance.
But I don't think that that's a satisfactory answer, because I'm pretty sure we see in Acts, I think it's in Acts, when the disciples are, they're considering what to do with the disciples of Jesus, right? And people are saying that they should be killed. There's a rabbi in here who says, he gives a list of examples of previous people who had put themselves forward and gathered like a large following. And they pointed out, well, their leaders died and then their following died off, right? In some instances, died at the hands of the rabbinical courts. So consequentially, it's not like this exact same situation is unheard of.
Yeah, that's a good point. Although I do, Matthew actually brings up a good point about being cursed to hang on a tree in Deuteronomy. I think I did go over that in. I went over that in a video. I forget which one it was, but I did go over it at some point. I think it was probably in one of my ecumenical council videos. I'm guessing, but yeah, I'm guessing it's there. It may have not been. It's totally possible. Maybe it was a forged fiction video. But yeah. So the catchword "crucify" appears for the first time and reveals the ultimate goal of the evil strategy of the Jewish leaders. Yeah. Essentially, that's all we get on that. Unfortunately, that's all that's in here about it. It would be. It would be much better if we got like why it was this and not something else. Like obviously, like it's supposed to, be like this is the passion that's coming later, foreshadowing. Ooh, right? Like, yeah, I get it, but not sadly not enough commentary on that. But that's okay. That's okay. It's already a very long episode, so we can continue on.
Yeah.
Okay, verse 20. Then a mother of the sons of Zebedee came to him.
The sons of Zebedee are James and John.
Yeah. And bowing down and making a request of him. And he said to her, "What do you wish?" And she said to him, "Command that in your kingdom these two sons of mine may sit on your right and on your left." Wow, pretty bold.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Very bold.
This I want to be on the good side or the at least the better side than the far side. But Jesus answered and said, "You do not know what you're asking for. Are you able to drink the cup that I am about to drink?" They said to him, "We are able." And he said to them, "My cup you shall drink, but sit on my right hand or my left is not for mine to give, but it is for those whom have been prepared by my Father.
So the idea here is that he has this fate that's coming to him where he's going to be crucified. Now, I know from the crucifixion story that he's crucified with other people who are also crucified. There's thieves on his right and his left. So he's like, well, you guys know what you're asking for.
Yeah, like you don't want to be in there with me. I mean, of course, they're asking like in heaven and stuff.
Right. They mean that. He means this.
Yeah.
Yeah. And hearing this, the 10 became indignant at the two brothers. But Jesus called them to themselves and said, you know that the rulers of the Gentiles lord it over them, and their great men exercise authority over them. Is it not so amongst you? Whoever wishes to become great amongst you shall be your servant, and whoever wishes to be first amongst you shall be your slave.
So, so you have the earlier when we were talking about slaves, they were saying the word slaves, doulos, and in this one they're using diakonos, which means servant. So yeah, they're drawing that parallel.
Just as the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve and give his life a ransom for many.
So the term ransom here, a Greek word was used most commonly.
Was it luo or luomai or something like that?
You might want to check it. You do have the Greek
right
there.
You're right.
But the Greek word was used most commonly for the price paid to redeem a slave. Similarly, Christ paid for the ransom price of his own life to free us from the slavery of sin. But really,
stretching it a little thin there.
Yeah, that's stretching it a little thin there. But I think it is noteworthy that the terminology is used again with slavery.
What verse was that? 20.
That was 28.
28. Okay.
28.
No, it's not the word that I'm thinking. Oh, wait, actually, hold on. It's a close one. It's similar, I think. Lutron. So instead of luo, this would be a means of release.
Yeah, the ransom, it refers to freeing a slave or a prisoner of war by payment of money and issuance of a legal document.
Yeah, so it's not ransom in the same sense that we think of it today.
Yeah. Paying essentially price to acquire property or to release property.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another one of those things we use to rationalize slavery in the Bible, by some. So verse 29. And as they were going out from Jericho, a great multitude followed him. And behold!
We just blew some people's speakers.
Yep.
You're welcome.
2 blind men sitting by the road, hearing that Jesus was passing by, cried out, saying, Lord, have mercy on us, Son of David. And the multitude sternly told them to be quiet. But they cried out all the more, saying, Lord, have mercy on us, Son of David. And Jesus stopped and called to them and said to them, What do you wish me to do for you? And they said to him, Lord, we want our eyes to be opened. And he was moved with compassion, and Jesus touched their eyes, and immediately they received their sights and followed him.
I just gotta throw in a quick healing miracle at the end of that.
Isn't that nice? It's odd how they figure out how to carve those chapters up, but it's a nice thing. Very nice.
Yeah,
Of
I
course,
think
I remember in Life of Brian, the gentleman who was asking for alms for an ex-leper and so forth, as someone saying this do-gooder came in, healed him, and he ruined his stick for begging. So
yeah.
perhaps there's always a downside to every a good act.
But, you know, Life of Brian says always look on the bright side of life. Even while they were being crucified.
Well, that is the end of the reading for today, and that's actually the end of this volume.
Yes, we are entering into what's not really the last third of the book of Matthew, but is slightly under a third. There's 28 chapters altogether. We'll probably do 4 chapters next time and 4 chapters the time after.
That would make sense.
Yeah.
And the last chapter itself is not very long at all.
Yeah. So we are almost done with the book of Matthew. Almost done with the life of Jesus. But not really.
Yeah, version 1.
Version 1.
Well, actually, this is version 2.
Oh, version 2.
But I want to thank
Ellis!
Ellis.
With the
Thank
$20.
you.
Thanks, man.
$20.
Very much
your
appreciated.
generous contribution. It's really appreciated.
Yes. So, what did we think?
Oh my
of
God. T-shirt giveaway.
T-shirt giveaway.
We forgot about the
yay.
T-shirt giveaway.
Well, we have a large amount of viewers right now.
We do.
So,
So you know what?
what better time to do that T-shirt giveaway? You know what? This is really the best part of the show
There you
because
go.
we get to see
If we have to make a new T-shirt for Landon.
if we have to make a new T-shirt
So
for Landon.
you should explain how could someone participate in this T-shirt giveaway?
Well, you see, we have a Patreon, and if you become a patron of $10 or more, you get entered into a T-shirt giveaway that we do every month, first Sunday of the month, and that's this one.
Yeah, you could just buy the shirts,
You could do that, yeah.
or you could win a shirt. And doesn't winning feel better than just buying something?
That is accurate.
And it has also been the source of creativity by yours truly. When someone who has a lot of T-shirts, as I do, I have a drawer down here. And this is one of the reasons why. I mean, look at the stack. Look at this stack of T-shirts that I have. Look at all these.
Wow.
These
That's a lot of shirts.
That's a lot.
This set and in this search, so there's the stack of shirts that you could have won if you'd been a $10 Patreon for all these many years.
Yeah,
How many guys should we have on the wheel?
I am currently looking because we do have to update it because I'm an idiot who forgot. So yeah, I'm currently looking at I think one of those we don't have anymore.
So you don't want Sammy, or
I don't know. I have to.
you have to check?
Yeah,
While Lawrence is checking,
because this is my fault. This is all on me.
let me just engage in. Oh well, go ahead, Landon.
No, I was just saying that in terms of I was one of the very, very early patrons, and so there was a period of time when I was the only one that was at a Patreon level of $10 or more, way back in the near the Genesis days, and so I did acquire a set of things, a set of T-shirts, quite marvelous T-shirts that during those times.
I paid for themselves.
The stack is there, and I get to rotate through them. But you too can begin to acquire them, and be put into this spinny wheelie thingy.
I mean, we've taken up is that more than just a shelf of your dresser drawers?
It's about a half a shelf.
Okay.
It's about a half a shelf of the collection, and of course, they're very good. Although I must say, I think the "He is Risen" T-shirt is one of my favorites. That's definitely a. Here it is. You see again. This is a example what you can get for a cool shirt. There, see, helium is risen.
Yeah,
It's a fantastic shirt.
And
I do have the list of people. So yeah, Landon, Ellis, Michael, Carlos, and Justin. Or you can just
and I also have to say they're very good at if you've won before, giving you a different T-shirt. So That is resulted in all
You have
this
to
great
Change
You have to-
Sammy. Change Sammy up top in categories
Oh,
to
okay.
Justin. There you go. There you go. Fantastic. And now it's
we'll
perfect.
do that spinny wheelie thing.
Yes. Let's spinny wheelie. You gotta do the button.
Run
Oh
around.
my gosh, it's Landon.
Are you? Oh my
Landon!
god.
No, I'm not kidding.
Congratulations, Landon. You
By the way,
will
it's
be.
just barely. Take a look.
Oh, it's just barely
Oh
Landon.
my gosh.
Wow. Rigged.
Sorry, Ellis.
Well, Landon, you will be the proud owner of
Another shirt.
we have other things on there. I think there's like a mug.
There
right?
is
Yeah,
a
yeah.
mug.
You
If
can do a mug. You go for a mug. I would, if you want to not have to create a new one, doing a He is Risen mug.
got some
Would
ideas.
be Helium is Risen mug would be nice.
We might have some ideas written down. We could talk about it
Okay.
after the
Well,
show.
whatever you end up getting, be sure to bring it with you to all your science conferences and show it off.
Yes.
It is fancy. All those squares in the suits, you'll be the one
It
cool
is-
guy.
It is interesting, in when I've worn that T-shirt out in public, some people think it is a very Christian T-shirt and would, praise me for it.
Wow. Do you let
And
them
I
know
say-
about
I
our
say,
show?
Well, you gotta like that alpha, meaning alpha particles is also nuclei. But yeah, so that's right. So, but you can go under the T-shirt thing. I think there's the link in the description below. That's what Jesus said.
Oh yeah, we
Right,
can
yeah.
also pin some merchandise.
Yeah, we can do that as well.
Get that Valentine's Day shirt.
Right, that's coming up
There you
Yeah.
for that person that you love,
Mike.
perhaps begrudgingly. It depends on if you're, let's see, maybe they burnt your meal or something, right? And that might be grounds for a divorce, but the relationship's
Yes.
already dead. So
Yeah.
So wisdom we've learned today, folks.
classic, yeah.
So any thoughts on our readings for the day?
Oh, we're good.
No, it was
Long.
fine. Yeah, long. Yeah.
Yeah.
But generally a fine reading. I think we covered a good amount. And yeah, aside from some miracles, some parables.
We got some parables about how, we should scold slaves and praise slave owners who are comparable to God.
Hey, listen, comparable to God, yeah. that is how it was set up. But it's because you gotta praise the slave owners that
Are generous.
are generous, right?
compassionate.
Ridiculous.
Backwards logic.
Yeah. Anyways, I think we did all of our shilling a wish list. Did we shill that out?
Amazon wish lists, books. You can book a book for us
To book.
to book.
We'll book it for you so you don't have to book.
If you buy us books, we will probably read them.
And
Yeah.
videos and all that stuff.
And then they read them and make use of them. So these books on the table that you see have been
Generously donated.
purchased off their Amazon wish list by people, and you are benefiting. So you invest in the show and you receive all the commentary that we were talking about. Most of it came from those books.
Yeah, that is absolutely true. And
The more books that you buy us, the more commentary that we can deliver.
that
So
is true, yes. Either way,
Facebook, Twitter, Gmail, diss track for Lawrence.
yeah, all the links are in the description. Like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. And
smash that bell.
please smash the bell. That really helps, actually. Maybe, hopefully. But we'll see you
on Friday,
Friday.
and then Sunday, and then Friday.
We'll send another shirt to Landon.